Republicans defect on the Boehner-Obama spending bill to keep the government funded past September 30th. I love how we keep funding the government at little increments at a time. So we get to have this debate again and again. So are they toying with the government shutdown? What's going on? I'm Alan Barton. Stand by for the front page. Joining me in PJTV Studios is Don Watkins of the Ayn Rand Center for Individual Rights and Terry Jones, Associate Editor for Investors Business Daily. Terry, we'll start with you. What's going on with this bill? The House had trouble passing it, and then they got their crew together. They passed it. They sent it to the Senate. I think as we're taping this, the Senate has already said no.
Yeah, the Senate has not approved it, and they don't like it. And so.
And this is just a budget for what period of time?
Well, this is just going to extend our current budget system. I mean, really, all it's going to do is fund FEMA. That's the main thing they need to do. But it will fund. Theoretically, it will fund operations of government for another couple of months.
I got you. And what's underneath this? What's the problem? What are they Republicans trying to cut and Democrats don't, or is this just?
Well, there's an irony here because in order to fund FEMA at about $3.5 billion, the Republicans have asked, okay, let's not add to the deficit. Let's make this our operating principle. And the Democrats have said, no, we have to add it to the deficit. The Republicans want to cut spending. And where the irony here is they want to cut a Republican program. It was a program that was put into place under President Bush. They want to cut that program, and the Democrats have said no. So Democrats have basically become the party of no when it comes to cutting spending. And that's, I think, going to play out very poorly in the coming election year.
Don's bringing in here. President Obama has been attempting to affect the direction of this bill from the sidelines, and this is what he said earlier this week.
Either we gut education and medical research, or we've got to reform the tax code so that the most profitable corporations have to give up tax loopholes that other companies don't get. We can't afford to do both. This is not class warfare. It's math.
Actually, it's not math, it's class warfare. It's the exact opposite. The man is brilliant at just stating the exact opposite of what he's doing. It's all politics and zero math. Otherwise, you wouldn't pick, like, either we gut cancer research, help for children, the police, fire, and shut down the interstates, or you do what I say. I mean, tell me, Don, you take it. Go ahead. I don't even need to ask you a question.
Yeah, there's a million things you could say, but just like these are the only things government does. Like, what about regulate businessmen? What about give massive stimulus packages that actually retard economic growth? What about, I mean, the list is basically endless, but it's exactly what you said. Anytime that the issue comes up of should we make the country freer, they try to take the most benevolent, most seemingly wonderful things that government does and then say, do you want to give up that? And the fact of the matter is, yeah, we should give up that, but that's not the place where you necessarily would start.
Terry, I want to follow up with you. I mean, obviously, there's a Democratic representative who said that there's a not so thin line between being frugal and fiscally responsible and being cheap and downright stingy. It's a fine line, Terry, between stingy and whatever. So tell us about the emotionality of this. I mean, they're putting in like these emotional terms, and they always talk about cancer research and interstate and firemen and police whenever they talk about government. But they did this whole budget deal earlier in the year. They're only cutting $7 billion out of the current fiscal year between, I guess, 11-12. And then already there's a jobs bill that haven't talked about with $450 billion. And then there's this continuing resolution that gets us going. And while they're talking about the jobs bill, while the super committee comes in, can these people keep track of what's going on in terms of the spending of money and not spending of money?
No, they can't. And the fact of the matter is, I used that phrase again. They have spent an extraordinary amount of money in the last 4 years, a 40% increase in spending since 2007. And the idea that we are in any way being stingy with government right now is patently absurd. Our government is bloated. We're wasting massive amounts of money. It's building up $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion in debt every single year. Our children are going to be paying for this for decades, if not for centuries to come. It's outrageous.
I want to go to something else, changing the subject. Bill Clinton has recently been actually skeptical about Obama's job plan. Why don't we take a look at that?
So that's what we need to do here with this home deal. And I don't think you can tax or cut taxes. I don't think you can spend or not spend enough to get America back to a full employment economy till we flush that debt.
So what is he talking about there in terms of flushing the debt? He's talking about the housing crisis, right?
Yes.
And that there's so much sort of overhang of the inventory that hasn't been allowed to clear out. And he's talking about this is Obama's administration that's been trying to hold up home prices.
Yeah, they've been
and won't allow it to. And I assume that's what he's talking about: flush out the debt, like get these things taken care of.
Yeah, that and well, also the debt that happens to be on the government's books. But you know, I find it a little bit ironic that President Clinton would be talking about the housing crisis, because it was under his administration that all of these nasty trends began. He was the one who encouraged Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to get involved in lending to low-income households who couldn't pay off their loans. He was the one who pushed for the subprime loan market. All of these trends began under him, and they soared in.
You're just a bitter man, because we all remember that between 1992 and 2000, all was right in the world. Because Clinton was in office, there was a booming economy, we had a surplus, everything, and everything was right between 1992 and 2000. Nothing wrong happened there. There were no seeds of anything, Terry. You are not acknowledging the greatness
You know, you're right,
of the
Alan.
Clinton era, because nothing went wrong. We all want to go back to the Clinton era, right? Don, Harry Reid remarked that this jobs bill is jammed up in the Senate. Now, the Senate is controlled by, Democrats. So Obama's own bill is jammed in the Senate full of Democrats. Tell me about this jobs bill, and what do you think?
I mean, the jobs bill, look, it's stimulus, what, 3,
2,
4? It's
4,
like
7.
Porky's, right?
Yeah.
There's just an infinite number of these
it's like
things.
Saw. It's like a horror movie. It's not Porky's. Porky's is funny.
Yeah, I mean, the basic premise is that somehow what we need to create jobs is government increasing aggregate demand. But if you actually look at the facts, what we need to have jobs is precisely that the economy needs to regear. We need to remove the chains on businessmen that raise the cost of hiring. And we need to not have the spending and taxes that make it so expensive to run businesses. That is what you need to create jobs. And so Obama's whole, well, we'll just spend our way into jobs. Where's that spending coming from? It's coming from the private sector, which is where jobs and productive jobs are actually created. So, I mean, the whole approach of the Obama administration is wrong, and the solution is free market.
All right, thank you, panel. That's all the time we have. Viewers, add your voice to the mix. Should more Republicans be standing up against Boehner and against compromise during these resolutions about budget? What are we going to do about this budget problem? Add your comment button. Add your comment button. Why don't you click on the button and add a comment? That will work better. For Terry Jones and Don Watkins, I'm Alan Barton. You've been watching Front Page.